But I think what we're really seeing as a result of that, the education can be there, but if nobody's hungry enough to plug into it, it doesn't matter, right? You know that. And so what I think we're really seeing is I can't even call it a younger generation coming in, right? Although obviously some people are retiring and there's younger people coming into the trades, straight into business owners or craftsperson turned business owner, whatever. But we're seeing a lot of people come in and take their business in a more serious manner.
Chris, hey buddy, thanks for coming on. How you doing?
I'm good, Hoken. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. Excited to have you on and chat a little bit about what you have going on, get your perspective on a few things. Let's just jump right into it, dude. I know you are, whenever I became aware of you, we got to meet each other. One of the things I appreciated was some posts about the St. Louis Blues. I can see the Blues behind you. And I was like, yes, I'm a good Minnesota boy. So I grew up playing hockey from the state of hockey. You always been a hockey fan? How did you?
Yeah, pretty much. I would say, since I was 10 years old. So at this point in my life, that's basically always.
So, okay. And are you from the St. Louis area? Where are you from originally?
Yeah, born, raised here, still live here in the area. We live over just on the Illinois side of St. Louis, for anybody that's familiar with it. Like, the downtown is right on the riverfront. So, I can be at a Blues game in 20 minutes, but I don't even live in the state of Missouri, which is what's funny, right? So it's like I'm from St. Louis, right? But I technically live in Illinois. It's one of those weird things. So,
man, that's funny. Yeah. What got you into hockey? Why 10? Like, what was there?
I don't know. I gave up soccer at that point. It was funny. I was just talking to my dad about that this weekend as I was watching some of the Euro games. I gave up soccer because it was cold fall season and I was the lazy kid that didn't want to run. So they put me on defense and I got bored and hated it. Right. And so I played baseball and golf too. I've played both of those starting at like age 5. And so I don't know. I just all of a sudden was like, oh, hockey seems cool. And, went to my first Blues game at age 10 and was pretty much sold after that. So,
dude, that's awesome.
And the Blues had some good teams like in that area as well, like won a President's Trophy and stuff. So it was like a good time to get into it. And then they
was Keith Tkachuk.
Oh, yeah.
Was he?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was the prime, like 1999, 2000. Yep, exactly. So,
and then now his son is, which that was that snuck up on, because there's another Tkachuk too. That family.
Brady. Yeah. So Brady plays for Ottawa and Matt's in Florida, which Game 7's. Tonight. As of recording. Yeah. So,
right.
So by the time this comes out, everybody's going to know what happened and we're sitting here clueless. So,
awesome. Well, we lost a bunch of people talking about Tkachuk.
That's okay.
And different things, but,
that's all right.
It was good.
I'll talk hockey all day with you, man.
Yes. Well, I love it, man. Well, I'd love to hear a little bit of kind of your background. You're founder of Elite Business Advisors.
Yep.
We'll get into that a little bit, but maybe tell me a little bit about like your entry into the painting industry. I always love kind of the origin stories of how people got into this lovely industry of ours.
Yeah. Well, as a lot of people in the industry will probably not be surprised, it all started with a college painting company. And I actually love to see that so many people are still connected with the industry in so many different ways from all the various college painting companies. Right. And so, when I was in college, I started with a company called Student Painters as an intern. It was one of the ones, College Pro, College Works, Textbook Painting, all very similar models and programs, although they differ in different ways. But started with that, man, and started as an internship. I was an entrepreneurship major and marketing major. And so for me, it was a risk-free way. We didn't have to invest money, right? This is how some of them kind of vary in structure, right?
Sure.
So we didn't have to invest any money. Super risky business model in the company looking back on it. But we didn't have to invest money as interns. And so I was like, I get to see what it's like to run and manage a small business. And I don't have to invest any of my own money to like get started in it. Right. Everything was kind of fronted to us and paid on the back end of it. And so just had a great experience. Ended up staying with them for 6 years. So went through the internship, ended up running the whole St. Louis, Southern Illinois, Missouri region for about 4 years and kind of got burned out on it. So that was really what got me into the coaching, the mentoring, right? Because after year one, my role was still to run a painting company inside their company, but it was also to start growing and recruiting and coaching the interns, like what I just did, right?
Sure.
So it gave me a whole new shift on that. And that's kind of where the two industries started merging for me with the coaching and mentoring and the painting industry and stuff. And from there ended up, and I'll give you the short version of it, but ended up leaving that company and started my own painting company. As time went on, the fires that we had to put out ended up outweighing the great success stories that made the job worthwhile sometimes.
Sure.
And I think some of my strengths and weaknesses weren't always balanced really well in that role too. I'll be truthful in that. The things I was really good at were off. The things I was really bad at ended up prohibiting the things I was good at, right? Going and
Sure.
recruiting the college students and grinding through that was really hard. Coaching them and training them and teaching them, great, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, if you don't recruit the right people, you don't end up having the greatest talent pool to grow, right? And so it just made sense to move on from it. And so yeah, I ran my own painting company, knowing to some degree what I'm doing now was the end goal, not expecting to still be so closely tied into the painting industry at the time.
Yeah.
But it was just a 3 to 4 year plan of, hey, I'm just going to do this and start figuring out how do we build this coaching company? What does it look like? What is consulting? How do we do this thing? So
Yeah, man. Now, student painters.
yep.
So was it like a regional thing? Like how big, whenever you were managing your area, how big of an area did you manage?
Let me think here. So our Midwest division, so student painters was split into 2 divisions, Midwest and then what was called the Michigan division, but it was Michigan, Pennsylvania, like towards the East Coast.
Okay.
Our Midwest division grew to about 8 million.
Okay.
I think here in St. Louis, we got up 1.5, 1.7.
Okay.
Right. And mind you, this is 3 months during the summertime for somebody that's not familiar with like that. Right. So
Totally.
I think with the last couple of years, we were between 800,000 and $1 million because we'd lost kind of some of the additional supporting managers and stuff. So I think the last couple of years we were between 800 and $1 million. And again, that's 3 months over summertime. So
Totally.
yeah.
Got it. And yeah, I know, as you know, a lot of the guys here at Aleph for College Pro and spent time in kind of the corporate side of it and kind of that regional. And it was like, you're a road warrior driving around
dude,
to
it was
the
a
different
lot.
folks, a lot of time
it
on
was
the
a
road.
lot.
And
yeah. People were like, why do you still live at home with your parents? I'm like, because there's no point in paying rent somewhere. Like literally I sleep in a bed there 10 nights a month. Like,
Totally.
So it was great for like that season of life too. I mean, fresh out of college.
Yeah.
Didn't have kids, didn't have a family. Right. So it was really good. I think there's a lot of good life experiences in there too. Right. I mean, I would leave sometimes Monday morning and, be in this city, in this hotel, in this city, in that hotel. And like, you're trying to figure out how to manage your life and your work balance. And, there's a lot of, I think, good life principles I can look back on and take out of it. And not that, some of the college towns are like the sexiest places in America, but it was kind of cool to get to see like Mizzou and, Kansas City and get to know the Kansas City area and Central Illinois up at U of I and, all the different kind of college towns and stuff. So it was kind of neat to make a lot of memories and good friendships there too.
Totally, man. Okay. So what kind of maybe just immediately precipitated? So it was, you always kind of wanted, or you had this idea of like a consulting company, a coaching company. But yeah, what led to you starting Elite Business Advisors? When was that? And
So officially launched March of 2018. I ran my painting company side by side in 2018, 2019, 2020 made the full-time switch.
Okay, sweet.
6 weeks before the world shuts down. But we can get into that. But and so my goal was to start building it, right? Because what I figured out was I loved the coaching and the mentoring side of it. I coached high school hockey growing up. There was just something about like helping other people and feeling like I had some sort of a gift to look at things from a different lens and break it down into action steps and simple terms and like walk people through it, and just be there for them. Right. And where I think the idea really came from was, right, I love the student painters model of coaching people, right? But like, where did the money come from? Right. And so I'll never forget when I told my mother-in-law this, that I was starting this business and like going to go down this path. And she was like, and in a supportive way, she said, well, how are you going to do that? Right. And I said, I have no freaking clue, but I'll figure it out and let you know. Right. Because I knew like over the years came into contact with different people, different contractors, different business owners, and was always like kind of giving free advice, right? That always seemed to work out and be impactful. And I had enough people eventually like, hey, you should start a business doing this, right? But I didn't know how to structure it. Like, how do you systematize it? How do you monetize it? What do people need? What is the structure? I mean, there's so many things, right, that go into running a
Yeah,
business. So that 2 years was kind of my way to figure out like, how do we do this?
totally. That's awesome. And then what all do you do? So
Yeah,
maybe kind of, and I don't know if that's changed over time too,
a
but
lot. Yeah,
what's kind of, the, like,
yeah. I
what all do
always
you guys do for your clients?
Yeah, for sure. I'll share this quick story. I always tell people it's like a painting company, right? When you start a painting company, I'll take your
Yeah,
wallpaper off. Yeah, we'll paint your dog. We'll do this. We'll do all these things, right? And then you eventually
totally.
you're like, well, that didn't make money. That doesn't work. That's terrible. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
um, so no, so we've niched down into just painting contractors. So
okay,
initially we were working with a handful of different businesses, mostly local here in St. Louis,
sure.
mostly trades related home service businesses. We weren't doing a lot of retail stuff, although we helped a few different establishments with some just different one-off projects. Again, kind of just taking all the experiences in we could. Oh, we ended up just niching down in the painting industry. And I think for me, truthfully, I have no problem admitting this. I think in the very beginning, I felt like just working with painting contractors, for me, it felt like I was taking the easy way out, right? Like I wanted
Mm,
this like consulting company. We can help coach business owners. And like, yeah, I know painting, that's cool. Like, I don't know. I think there was almost like an ego thing there that I felt like that was just the easy route into what I wanted to do. And then what I quickly realized, and by quickly, I mean, it took me 2 years, was that knowing the industry, coming from the industry, doing what these people are doing every day, being able to say, like, oh, yeah, well, when we did cabinets, this is what we did and this is how we did it. And I'm not saying this is the right way to do it, but this is like, like we can talk their language. We had a lot of people come to us when PCA Expo came back in 2022 and said, hey, we want to work with you because you've been in our shoes. You've ran a
yeah,
painting company. And that's actually become a superpower for us now. All of our advisors have ran a painting company in some way, shape, or form, all as of
that's
right now as
awesome.
owners. And I think for us, it's a superpower in that industry, right? Because we can say, we've been in your shoes, we've done this. Hey, when you have this problem with an employee, here's how we dealt with it, or here's how we did it. And here's what I would do differently if I still had my company now, right?
Yeah, no, that's
Um,
huge, man.
yeah, so we work with, so to give you the to get to your question, we work with painting contractors all over North America and just really help them in every area of their business. That we aren't just marketing specific, we aren't just finance specific, we aren't just recruiting specific, right? We try to help people in every areas, because what we found is you guys know at Aleph, business connects in every different way, shape, and form, right?
Totally.
If I'm just a marketing consultant, I care about one thing: getting you more business. Well, guess what? If you
Mhm.
don't have a recruiting process in place, if your sales process sucks and you don't have the finances to withstand it, it's going to break anyways, right?
Yeah, man.
So why not work on everything together and maybe say, hey, marketing is the focus we need to work on. But while we're doing that, how do we build out your leadership and your production team to handle this influx of business? How do we make sure financially you're stable enough to handle financially and be profitable to keep growing at that level of business, right? Hey, how do we increase your sales process 10 to 20% to where you're being more efficient with the leads you're getting, right? So we try to help people in every area, and have systems and resources and stuff, ready to go or that can be customized to them.
Yeah, man. I love that. That's definitely, we're birds of a feather in that
Yeah.
maybe experience, right? So Aleph, we did some venture into remodeling, in our local market, and
Yep.
we had a gutter and metals division that we did for a
Yep.
little while. And yeah, I just think, like, as we were honest
Yeah.
and humble, it's like, what are we good at? What do we have
Yep.
this tons and tons of reps on?
Yep.
And we've really leaned into that and focused on that. And I think whenever you embrace that, good things happen.
Yeah.
So good,
For
good for
sure.
you. Good for you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, man, tell me a little bit. I'm curious, like maybe a little crystal ball
Yeah.
here of, we like to talk about this. I think this is a really fun time in our industry.
Yep.
It seems like there just has been energy, and you just look at, like, the PCA is a great case in
Oh
point of
yeah.
just how that thing has changed in the expo and year to year. I'm curious from your seat, how what you think of as, some defining shifts coming in the industry and the market.
Yep.
And how are you kind of anticipating or even already starting to advise, accordingly? What comes
Yeah.
to mind?
Yeah. So I think the first couple of things is I'm really, I guess I'll start out with this. I'm really excited for the next decade in this industry because I think the shift that we're seeing that you're talking about, one has been because of podcasts like this, because of PCA, because of the education is more readily available and accessible to people. But I think what we're really seeing as a result of that, the education can be there, but if nobody's hungry enough to plug into it, it doesn't matter, right? You know
Mm,
that. And so what I think we're really seeing is we're seeing, I can't even call it a younger generation coming in, right? Although obviously some people are retiring and there's younger people coming into the trades, straight into business owners or craftsperson turned business owner, whatever. Um, but we're seeing a lot of people come in and take their business in a more serious manner, right?
yeah.
Whereas I think a lot of the people that are retiring their entire lives for the most part had 3 painters with them, right? At all times. Maybe they scaled up to 5 at one point and down to 1 at one point, but they never changed between 1 and 5, right? They did things the same way for 20 to 30 years. Change happens, right? And
Yeah.
so I think we're seeing this younger wave of people come in with a whole different mindset about what this industry has to offer. And that in itself is going to help shift the tide of an industry in a good way, right? That's one thing
Yeah.
I love about PCA. And I know you guys are on a similar mission as we are, is we want to elevate the trade, right? Everybody grows better together. And if we can get everybody more professionalized and, bidding at the prices they should be at, it helps everybody succeed. Right.
Yeah.
I know that's a big mission and a big statement to say, but I think it's going to happen over time. Right. And I think the ones that don't are going to get rolled up to some degree as a subcontractor, or they're going to be in a tight spot
Yeah.
because it's going to be hard to compete. There's always going to be a market for, I'll say, cheaper, unprofessionalized, and I mean that in like the most polite way possible. Right?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
always going to be a market for those people, so I can't say they're going to go away. But for the most part, I think it's going to be a struggle is the tide shifts in the industry. So I think it's one of the biggest things I really see happening. Again, I feel like the last few years we've started to see signs of that in some different ways. But I think as time progresses on, we're going to really continue to see that over the next 10 to 20 years, is that older generation that wasn't willing to change, didn't want to scale, grow, do anything outside of their comfort zone, which I don't, there's nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I think we're seeing a whole different mindset of entrepreneur come into it. So I think that's one big thing. If you want to
Yeah.
hit on anything there.
Just a comment on that. Like, man, I think part of it is out of necessity too. Like, I mean, I was at Costco yesterday. I got some family coming to town, and it's
Yeah.
like, if I want to throw some ribeyes on the grill, it's like $20 a steak at Costco.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just
Yeah.
the price of living. A lot of folks are going to college, so they are coming in with debt. Like, if you want to buy a house, just the income that you need to be able to bring in.
Yeah.
I just think that puts pressure on the performance of the business. And I think for a lot of these guys, I think we're learning this as we're trying to grow businesses.
Yeah.
To buy market share, to grab market share costs money. I mean, there's just a reality of, like, if you want to scale and get market, you're gonna have to pay for it. And that is just even harder to do as well if you're not, you just have to have it
Yep.
put together, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think, one thing that we've seen a lot, we're going to talk on it at our upcoming event about like pathways to growth, right? There's
Yeah.
the like super crazy year over year, double, triple revenue for 3 years growth, right? And that's hard to sustain because you grow so much at such a rapid pace. And I'm not saying that growth at a quick pace is a bad thing, but what I think I found is a lot of people get too caught up in the numbers and the growth and less on solidifying their people, their systems, their processes, building up some cash,
Yeah.
to, and that's always a conversation, right? How much cash is too much cash, not enough cash, right? It's a little different.
Sure.
We're not a software company, but at a software company say, yeah, we're actually cash flowing. And so we have to go into debt. And I was like, what? And they're like, that's just what the industry does. I'm like, it's totally ass backwards, but,
Right.
but I get it. So like, I think like slow, sustainable growth, I don't say slow as in like 20 years, but just year over year, sustainable organic growth, investing in your people, investing in your systems, I see way too many people sometimes grow too much too fast. And again, I think it's that younger mentality, right? One thing we've seen with that across the whole industry is I think some people struggle with the leadership side of it and the
Yeah.
buy-in side of it, right? They grow so much. It's such a, young age that sometimes it's hard to get respect from the people around them that they're working with, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's GCs, homeowners, it's not that it can't happen. There's plenty of people out there that show it can, but I think they don't take time to invest in themselves because they're reinvesting too much into marketing and market share and stuff. So I think just having a healthy balance of that's a big thing as
Yeah.
we see that tide shift.
Yeah, man. And I think that is something people need to understand, what is growth for, right?
Yep.
So like growth is not necessarily good in and of itself.
No.
It's not a universal good, right? You could
Yeah.
grow yourself out of business if you're growing in unprofitable ways. To your point, if you're growing in unsustainable ways from a resource standpoint, whether it's cash flow or whether it's just energy, so I think it's like, all right, if I want to grow, I need to understand, what am I growing for? Like, what am I trying to get to? And I think that really cascades a lot of healthy decision making and evaluation, down the road. So,
and being patient for when you get there too, right?
Totally.
Not having to be like, hey, we got to get there tomorrow, right? I know if we
Sure.
doubled our client load in the next 30 days, they'd cause some problems, right? And that's okay. Like, I'm aware of that, right?
Yeah.
So how do we prepare for doubling that? But then how do we know when's an acceptable time frame to do that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing. And I love what you just said. And that's one of the biggest things we always tell our clients is I'm like, hey, what do you want your business? How do you want your business to serve your life? Right? That's how I always say it, right? Because that's what your business is here for, right? Most entrepreneurs start their business for two reasons: time freedom and financial freedom. And what do most entrepreneurs not have? At least one of the two, if not both, right? And so like, if that is your goal, right, what does that look like, right? What is the income level? I love some of the aha moments sometimes when it's like, hey, I want to work 25 hours a week because I got a family at home and I want to spend time with them while my kids are young. When they're in high school, college, and grown, then maybe I'll think about growing it, right? And we work that math and be like, well, here's what it needs to look like. And they're like, well, that's a lot more achievable than I thought. Well, yeah, because now you have a direction to go in, right? Now,
Totally.
if you want to do this, you need 6 painters and blah, 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 and whatever, right? So, yeah, I think it's got to serve your life, because growth for growth's sake is just, what's the point?
Totally, man. And we know the guys who at the conference or at the expo or at the event, it's like they can talk about the growth. That sounds good, for 10 minutes in a conference, in a circle, but what's it really doing? And, you want to make sure it's doing well. Well, and I think one of you mentioned this earlier, the proliferation of podcasts and good information, things like that. And I think coaches have been a big source of that, yourself being one of them. And one of the things that I think more and more people are using to grow is hiring a coach. And so I just kind of want to, tee you up a little softball for you here, but why should somebody consider hiring a coach? And what's kind of the pitch on why that's a worthwhile investment from your standpoint?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I read a book one time. It's called Everybody Needs a Coach in Life. And I think that is probably, for me, that was one of the most aha moments, not necessarily about what we were doing, but even for myself, to make sure, like, business coaches should have coaches, FYI. Right. And I've got 2 great coaches and mentors, actually 3, if you count our social media coach that we have that helps us with a lot of our content, and his team and stuff. And so, I think for me, it's, you don't know what you don't know. Right. And as entrepreneurs, I can say this, having coaches, we get tunnel vision, right? We look at things one way, we think we know the best way, and that's the way we're going to go. And sometimes somebody else just saying, well, hold on a second, have you thought about this? Or my favorite one is when they tell you the thing you don't want to hear, but you need to hear it because it's what you need to do, but you just won't do it. But now you've got somebody kind of holding you accountable, right? And I think for me, that's where the power of having a coach comes in, and a mentor, and whatever term you want to put on that, is that it gives another perspective. And arguably it should be somebody that's been down the path of where you want to go. Right. And I think for me, again, that's why we've specialized in this. And we have plans in 3 to 5 years to grow into other home services and kind of copy and paste the systems and the model that we have here with our painting into other, home trades and find people that specialize in those trades. But like, for me, it's like we can help people because we've been there, right? That's why we make sure all of our advisors have painting experience in the industry, because it's so important, because again, we've been down that path. And so I think that book really just sums it up well, that, we can help give people a different perspective on their business. We can see blind spots. We can get to know people to a degree where sometimes we know them better than they know themselves, and where their weaknesses are. And we can make suggestions on how to make sure their business gets where they want it to go to, based on that they may not be able to see that themselves.
Yeah. Man, I think it's so true of, you don't know what you don't know. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard. This is maybe a slightly different, and that's a little bit more through kind of peers and community, but it's like, I've talked to so many business owners that have owned their business for 15 years. And for 10 years, they ran their business the same way, and they more or less had the same results. And then they just didn't know that you could do a subcontractor model, or they just didn't know that there was marketing or
production rates,
production rate. Exactly. And literally by opening themselves up to one or two, key insights, inputs, literally their business triples in 18 months or 24, and it's just, that happens so often. I think obviously a coach of just like, you don't know what you don't know. I think that's great.
Yeah. Well, and I think a big thing too, I mean, we've got our retreat coming up here in about 4 weeks. And, I was a couple earlier in June, I was talking to people that had put on events before, similar in size to ours, and was like, what'd you learn? Right.
Yeah.
And
great.
honestly, there was 3 different nuggets over 2 different conversations that is going to be a game changer for us with this event. Right. That I was like, I would have never thought about that. Oh, you can try to negotiate when your room block expires. Huh. Guess what? I made a phone call on Friday. I got a room block extended for another week, and we're able to sell more tickets and give people a little bit of a discount on their hotel. Like, it's just all these little things. You're like, oh, I would have never thought about that. Oh, I never thought about adding this in. Right. And so just even things like that. And I think the people that are hungry and coachable, that's the biggest thing, right? If you're hungry and you're coachable and you're willing to change, a coach can be the best asset for you. Right. So yeah,
that's
your
great.
heart's got to be ready for it.
Totally, man. And what would you, as somebody obviously who is a coach, you've gone through some of these relationships, obviously plenty of these relationships, you've been coached yourself. Like, what would you suggest to somebody considering kind of shopping for a coach, considering looking at options out there? What should they be thinking about?
Elite business advisor. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, I think in all seriousness, man, like, you know me well enough. I think in all seriousness, like, again, what's the fruit on the tree, right? I think that's a big thing. And I think to some degree, the term business coach in the coaching industry kind of gets diluted and gets a bad rap sometimes, right? Because I've seen some coaches out there, and I believe they've done great things for people. But at the end of the day, how do you coach somebody on running a business if you've never ran a business yourself? Right? Like, I don't know how good their college was, but I don't think my college prepared me to go just run a business. Right. Like, I needed to kind of figure it out. Right. And so, I think for me, that's a big thing, is like, where's the fruit on the tree? What are the results with the people they've worked with before? And just figuring out who seems to be a good fit, right? Everybody's different. Our approach is different than the other coaches that are specific to the painting industry as well. And that's okay. Because guess what? I have no problems with any of them, right? Because I know that we do things differently than, this company does and that company does. We all kind of have our own things that we do. We all are priced differently, and we all have things we offer. And, the reason we do a free business analysis meeting, I've been onboarding our admin this whole month. And, I told her, I was like, the reason we do this is we just want to make sure we're the right fit for each other. Right. Yeah. I said, I'll never sell somebody on a coaching package, because if at the end of the day, they don't think that we're the best fit for them, we're setting it up for failure. Right. So there's no point in me being a hard pressing closer person. And maybe we lose a few people that we should have pushed a little bit harder, but I'll take that because at the end of the day, I know that people are coming to work with us because they feel like it's the right fit. They feel like we can help them and they have the trust and the confidence that we will. That's to me, I think the big thing. So yeah, I think it's a good idea to interview a couple different coaches, see who seems to be the right fit, see who seems to have the best relatability to you as a person, right? Because you're going to spend a lot of time with them. They have to be somebody you can trust.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, man. And I love connecting with folks and sending them your way because I would just add in there like honesty and transparency. It's kind of like, you are not paying them to tell you things to rah and tell you everything's going to be fine and you're awesome, right? It's like inherently I need to get better. Like that is the point of hiring a coach is I am not who I want to be, or this business is not who it wants to be. And so it's kind of like, can they be honest? Can they shoot you straight? And I really appreciate that about you. That's why I love sending people your way.
No, absolutely, man. Well, no, and I agree with that because, and I think for us, like we need our clients to be honest and transparent back with us because if you lie about your numbers, if you lie about this, like what's the point? Like, and so
that's
no,
good.
I mean, I think that's a big thing. And I think for me, I mean, it's, I always start the conversation with like, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And I say that out of love and also the fact that you pay me. So, you know, but no, I mean, it's hard. I don't like having difficult conversations with people. The conversations I like having are one I had with somebody earlier that's, hey, we have all this excess money in our business. What do we do with it? Those are my favorite conversations to have, but guess what? When we need to have the hard ones, I'm going to do it because I know I'm doing it for the best interest of our client, not because I want to avoid a difficult conversation that they don't want to hear.
Totally, man. Totally.
Yeah.
Another question on this. So expectations, I think, are for all relationships in whatever sphere of life, expectations are huge. And I'm curious your thoughts on what should, if somebody's hiring a coach and looking for that, okay, here's the things they should look for. I think it's also wise to like, here's what I should not be expecting out of my coach. Or just to have like realistic, like what am I, just
That's
like
good.
any role in the business, you're going to have, here's my role and responsibilities. Here's what I'm accountable for and I'm not accountable for. I think people should have the same expectations on their coach. What would you say people should be clear on that a coach is not going to be able to do for them?
Yeah, no, I think one of it is how involved do they get in actually running your business, right?
Sure.
And obviously every coach varies in there. We're happy to step in and try to, help out where we can. And if people need help job costing, and I mean, we do all kinds of add-ons and try to, help people if they're just needing some help, right? So we have no problem kind of rolling up our sleeves a little bit and trying to help in that regards, right? We're not going to run your business for you. But I think that's a big thing is like, what are they going to actually, how involved are they going to get? And I'm not saying one's better than the other, but just knowing that expectation up front. I think understanding like, what are you paying for? I guess that's probably the best way I can say this, right? What are you paying for? And this is where I think everybody has different structures and different things, right? We do one-on-one coaching. We don't do group coaching. We do one-on-one coaching. We're very upfront about that. Some people love it. Some people hate it, right? That's okay, right? That's why we do our monthly mastermind with all of our clients. So there's at least one group get together every month. I know you were on there with us earlier this year and stuff. And so like, I think just understanding what you're paying for, right? We pretty much try to outline that very detailed and like, hey, this is what you get for what you're paying for, right? You get 2 1-hour one-on-one meetings a month. You get access to us to ask questions within reasonable, right? We block in X amount of time per month outside of our 2 1-hour meetings to help you, to check in with you, to prep for our meetings. Like if you go above and beyond that consistently, we'll have a conversation and either hold the line or say, hey, that's fine. We need to up your fee a little bit, right? If this is the level of service you want. We have no problem doing that, right? Like if people need more from us, we're happy to do more with them. We just need to have a conversation to make sure it's win-win and not above and beyond what kind of the package is, right? So I really would say that's the biggest one, Hogan, is just understand what you're paying for with them. Understand, what you're going to get for it. And then don't be afraid to ask if there's more you need. Right. I think that's a big thing as you go back to honesty and transparency. We have some people are like, hey, can you just like really hold the line on us and like almost be a little bit abrupt if we don't do our stuff? Okay. If I have your permission, I'm more willing to do it. Right.
Totally.
Because I'm not going to be a jerk about it, but at the end of the day, it's your business. But again, I want you to succeed. So I think that's a big thing is just give some feedback. If there's things that you don't feel like they're doing, they at least ask and see if they're willing to.
Yeah. I love that, man. And you and I have talked about this just as we've kept in touch and update each other. Like, I think this is something where how Aleph has positioned, or the opportunity that we saw in the market, right, is I often tell folks that, I don't think there's a degree to which Aleph has scaled a few businesses. And so we are maybe a little bit further down the path than some people that we might get conversations with about partnering with us. But it's not necessarily that in Aleph they're going to get like way better information per se than, if they work with Chris or others. It's not really it's something different. It's if you want to scale your business at some point, in our opinion, I can't do all of this, right? And so like a partner, is something to consider. But I love that of like, what are you getting, having clear expectations. I think that's huge.
And that's a big thing. I mean, we send all of our clients with their card authorization form. We send them like an expectations thing of like, hey, we want to make sure like we're all on the same page, right? Because again, I don't want to set anybody up for failure. I don't want to get 3 months into a relationship and all the time and onboarding and upfront time that goes into that. And then all of a sudden you be mad at us because you thought you were getting X. Like, at least tell us, right? Like, so I want to make sure we're transparent about that. And I think that's a big thing. At least give people the chance to always make it right. If you feel like there's some shortcomings with what you thought it was going to be or what you feel like you need out of a coach, just ask them. A lot of times they can adapt. They just sometimes need to know what's on your mind.
I love that. I think that's true. People can maybe complain about a service they got, and it's like, they might not know that's what
Did you ever talk to them? Our food tasted terrible. Did you bring it up to your server? Well, no. Well, you can't really be mad at them then, right? You didn't even give them a chance to fix it.
And how many times have they been like, somebody writes a bad review and it's like, oh, I thought that we did a fine job.
Yeah.
And it's like, they didn't even talk to me. I would have happily gone back and fixed it, whatever it was. And it's like, well, don't be like the customers that you complain about.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to use our client's own business against them, but at the end of the day, don't be that person. So
totally, man. Nice, man. Well, how about like, we're getting into these busy summer months. Just any like words of encouragement. I mean, maybe somebody is listening to this and they're driving in between jobs, or it's intense right now. I know that we're feeling that just in our businesses and our 15 partnerships. It's like go time. Any kind of summer words of encouragement in the heat of the grind for folks tuning in?
Oh man, I think two things. Number one, know that it's a season, right? This is a very cyclical business, and the seasons, not just even the weather, right? Even if you're in Hawaii and Florida, you still have your seasons with the holidays and with school being out and summer vacation. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's not just the climate, although obviously I'm guessing 60% of the country, that's a big part of it. So one, understand that it's a season, right? This isn't a sustainable pace of growth, right? You couldn't do this 12 months a year for the next 20 years, but sometimes you can do it for a couple of months when you need to. And I think the second thing, and this is a big thing, and this is honestly something I've had to stay focused on as we've grown and things have gotten crazier here, and we have our event, we've had our admin, like we got so much going on, just like a lot of painting companies do. Don't forget why you started your business, as I mentioned earlier. A big thing for me was the time freedom with that. And what I realized is without paying attention to it, I wasn't taking time off to go golf or to go do this. Or now as our boys are getting older, like, go home early one day and just spend a couple hours together, right? Go to the park, like all those little things, right? And so for me, the time piece of it was always a big thing. And what I've noticed is when I get really burned out or just overwhelmed or it's just been nonstop, like I know it sounds counterintuitive sometimes to take like a half day, but like take a half day and go do whatever it is that feeds your soul, that reminds you
Yeah.
why you started your business. Right.
Love it.
And I know that sounds crazy to say, but like, again, burnout will happen if you don't do those things. And sometimes you need that recharge, you need that refresh. Just try to get to a reset point. That's another big thing. When you got too many just outstanding, lingering things that are piling up, try to just spend a weekend, power through it. Say, hey, I'm going to power through. We're going to reset on Monday, and then I'm going to take next Friday off to overcome it. Right. So I think those would be the two biggest things. No, it's not forever. And don't forget why you're doing this whole journey.
Yeah, man. I think that's so good. It's like so much of I don't know, this has been my experience. Like so much of like discipline and execution and all that stuff. It's far more about, in my experience, like managing like inspiration than it
Yep.
is about like specific tactics or, strategies. It's like um that stuff is important. But because it kind of keeps like I geeked out on a book, highly recommend. It's called Leadership in War by Andrew Roberts. Really good book. He kind of does like 8 or 9 vignettes of like leaders in war.
Okay.
And Dwight Eisenhower, he said, Supreme Commander, Allied Forces, World War II, that he's like, a plan is meaningless, but planning is everything. And I just thought that was very interesting, right? Like a plan,
Yeah.
it does it becomes meaningless because things change and whatever.
Yep.
But like planning and like staying in there. But I think it was insightful because planning is meaningful not because you come to a plan that is a set it and forget it and it works. I
Yeah.
think planning is meaningful is because it keeps you in the game. Like
Yep.
it keeps you going, it keeps you moving, it keeps you motivated. And I think managing that inspiration, to your point, like filling your soul, like stay in the game. Figure out how you keep yourself in the game
Yep.
whenever it gets busy. I think that's huge.
Well, and I think a last thing I'll throw in there too is like, don't try to do everything yourself. And I'm so guilty of this. And I realized that even the last 3 weeks we've had our admin and getting her up and going and like everything. And it's like, there's so many things where, well, I can just do it myself, right? I'll just do this. And like the last week I've been like, nope, Casey can do that next week. Nope. She's coming in the office on Monday. Like we'll sit down and we'll go through this together. I'm going to show her how to do it. To where, yes, maybe this one time it would have been just as easy to do it. But guess what? Next time she can do it.
That's
Or
great.
when this comes up, she understands what we're doing here enough to be able to kind of run with this on her own, And so I think that's a big thing, right? If you're running to the paint store to pick up paint when they need another gallon, why send one of them to go get it, right? If you have a project
Totally.
manager, like all the little things, don't try to do everything yourself. I think again, as entrepreneurs, we try to just do everything ourselves, whether it's from the financial side of it or just we can do it better. But at the end of the day, we can't. And that's a hard thing to understand and come to the realization of. But know how to lean on people around you, how to, try to automate things with technology or find people to lean on because we can't do everything ourselves, especially when we balloon up in a season like this right now.
Yeah, that's a good word, man. Speaking of that, maybe it's a good place for us to wrap. Is
Yeah.
if folks need some help with their
Yep.
business and want to get in touch with you, what's like the best way to check out Elite Business Advisors?
Yeah. Go to our website, www.elitebusinessadvisors.com. You get some info on there. You can submit a contact form to set up an analysis call with us. We'll reach out and get something on the schedule with you. Like I said, that's kind of the next step is to have that free analysis call, 30, 40 minutes on Zoom. It's not a sales pitch. I always tell people that. It's literally, we want to get to know them. We want to get to know their business. How are they operating in their finances, their marketing, their estimating, their recruiting? How's the company structured organizationally? All those types of things. And obviously we'll show what you can expect in working with us, like you said, expectations, but it's not a sales pitch. So
Okay,
yeah, check us out. You can get more info there. It's the best spot.
nice. And then you have a podcast as well,
Yep, we
so people
do.
can tune into that.
We
Where
do.
do
I've got
people
a
find
couple
that?
favorite episodes. I bet you can't guess which ones they are, Hogan. Yeah, so it's called the Elite Business Advice Podcast. It's available
Okay,
on Apple, Spotify, pretty much everywhere. If you find a platform that's not on for some crazy reason, let me know. But it's out
okay,
there.
sweet.
So
And then you got a big event coming up. Tell people about
yes.
that too.
Yes, it's not too late. We're not probably going to have to cut registrations off in its entirety. So yeah, we have our 2024 Elite Business Retreat coming up here in St. Louis, July 23rd, 24th. It's a Tuesday and a Wednesday. It's going to be a great time. We're downtown St. Louis, right across from Busch Stadium. We've got a great lineup. We've got 9 speakers lined up over 2 days. Everything's put together workshop style. We try to make it 2 days to sit down and proactively work on your business, right? Because what's the thing people aren't doing, especially during the busy season? We aren't working on our business. We're not planning. We're not thinking about anything, right? And so we're going to spend 2 days. All of our speakers and all the content is put together in a workshop style. So you can find more details on the website. There's
Sweet.
a banner on our homepage. It says learn more about the retreat here. But yeah, so we've got some spots left. It's not too late to get your ticket. And if you have questions, reach out to me.
Sweet, man. Awesome. Well, dude, thanks for making some time to come on. We'll have to do it again.
Absolutely.
And best of luck at the event coming up. And
Thanks, man.
hang in there, man.
Looking forward to having Jason with us. I'm excited to hear what he's going to have to share. I wouldn't let him do his presentation on spreadsheets this time.
Okay,
So,
that's good. You got the inside scoop of what.
What not to do. So
it's going to be good.
So no, okay. I appreciate it, Hogan. Thanks for having me on. I always enjoy chatting with you and collaborating with you guys and what you guys are doing for the industry in a way that we can't right now. So
that's awesome, dude.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Likewise. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, we'll see you. Bye-bye.